Hello everyone. The Warhammer Fantasy world is filled to the brim with wizards, dark lords, mighty knights and mythic monsters. So many of you will be shocked to discover that the world of Warhammer Fantasy was actually created by a race of extremely advanced interstellar toads. These interstellar beings, otherwise known as the Old Ones, have some of the most mysterious and enigmatic lore inside the Warhammer Fantasy universe. Before the arrival of the Old Ones, the world of Warhammer Fantasy was unrecognisable. With the world being in the firm grip of an ice age, there was very little survivable space outside of the regions along the equator. These regions were in a constant state of turmoil, with giant monsters and ancient civilizations fighting over meagre scraps of land. During this time, the first Old Ones descended from the heavens in giant silver ships. Allegedly, the Old Ones had a huge empire that not only spanned across the universe, but time itself. Their technology was insanely advanced, merging science, magic and astrology, giving them power that could rival and outclass most gods of the Warhammer Fantasy universe. Each world in their empire was linked by gateways. These could range from small portals where a singular person could walk through to the size of moons for their giant ships to pass. Each world in their empire was linked by at least one of these gateways, with some having multiple ones. This meant that they could travel instantly across massive distances in even time. But for unknown reasons, the Old Ones had created a grand plan around the mortal world of Warhammer Fantasy. They came across it in their travels and instantly recognised it as a hub of great magical power. They created portals at each of the north and south pole of the planet, allowing easy access to their new colony. The Old Ones then began the great task of completely reshaping the planet. They moved the land masses, eradicated some of the more harmful creatures, and even altered the orbit. This is a real testament to the power of the Old Ones, as this wasn't even considered a hard undertaking by them in comparison to other things they've done across their empire. After the ice sheets retreated, the land started to bloom with life, with many of the lands being covered in forest and jungle. Once the planet was deemed fit, they started to seed and create the races we know today in Warhammer Fantasy. The first of these races created were the Slann. These mage priests boast incredible power and one of the few races capable of withstanding the direct contact with the Old Ones. The Slann were designed to guide the younger races. These younger races were proto-elves, dwarves and men, so the ancestors of the races we see today in Warhammer. The Old Ones encountered these while reshaping the land, and with the help of their technology, the Old Ones reshaped these races into what we know today. These weren't the only intelligent creature in the mortal world at the time. Unfortunately for them, the Old Ones either deemed them not worth of alteration or incompatible with their future plans. This led to the creation of the Saurus, another lizardman race, who were commanded by the Old Ones through the Slann to eradicate any other sentient life that they did not deem fit. While this brutal cleansing of the planet took place, the Old Ones spawned more and more Slann, who were then commanded to begin immense projects. These took the shape of giant temple cities, predominantly in the region of Lustria. This is where the Old Ones saw a need for a third race of lizardmen, who would be the overseers and sort of managers of these great projects. These were known as the Skinks. These temple cities were built exactly to a specification and instruction provided by the Old Ones, and they formed a nexus known as the geomantic web, which flowed entirely across the mortal world. The web channeled a huge amount of natural energy, encompassing the whole planet, allowing the Old Ones to draw upon a massive amount of power. The sheer wealth of power also gave the Slann access to a spectrum of the Old Ones' powers, allowing the Slann to further mould the planet and have access to a few other powers, but it's not clear what. The geomantic web could also be used to telepathically communicate across massive distances. This time of creation was swiftly followed by great horror and catastrophe. Disturbing anomalies began to emerge in the two polar gates, and without warning, the portals completely collapsed, imploding, and it caused a great warp rift. This great cataclysm saw the world descend into a hellish nightmare. Chaos spewed forth, warpstone fell from the sky, giant meteorites smashed into the world, and a second moon ascended into the sky. This apocalyptic disruption paled in comparison to the true catastrophe for the mortal races. The Old Ones had vanished. With the collapse of the gates, the Old Ones were gone and were never seen again. The Slann had no way of communication with them, and the Slann and the fledgling races were pretty much left to their own devices. The Slann, combining their magical power, managed to seal a large portion of the warp rift, but not all of it, and this sheer magnitude of magic decimated the Slann's numbers. After this great loss, the Slann retreated into their cerebral worlds, with only a precious few remaining to help lead the Lizardmen. After the vanishing of the Old Ones, this is where we really see the world shape into the fantasy world we know today. The Lizardmen, once the leader of the world in technology and size, regressed into a fraction of what they once were, worshipping the Old Ones as gods. For the other races, the memory of the Old Ones descended to myth and then was forgotten, apart from a few selected people who are mostly labelled as madmen. And then that's really the end of the story of the Old Ones in Warhammer Fantasy. Their magics do linger, but overall they're not really heard of again. So one of the biggest questions around the Old Ones is, are the Old Ones from Warhammer Fantasy the same as the Old Ones from Warhammer 40k? And the answer is yes and no. Yes, they seem to be very similar with technology and description, pretty much identical, but it has been confirmed they aren't the same as the Old Ones in Warhammer 40k. At one point, I think this was Games Workshop trying to link the two, but now I think it's just been left in as a nod from the writers to 40k fans and sort of reusing material as an easy way of a creation myth, really. So thanks for joining me today, guys, and make sure to like and subscribe. Comment below what topic you want me to cover next.